Some structures fall with a bang, a catastrophic roar that echoes through history, a warning to all who build. Others are consumed by silence, dissolving quietly into the places they once claimed. The sea does not shout. It waits, it pulls, it tests, and, when the moment is right, it takes back what was never truly tamed. This is the story of a jetty that vanished beneath a calm tide, without a storm, without a warning, without a trace of what went wrong, until we looked deeper. Welcome to Structural Evidence, where we investigate disasters not just for what collapsed, but for why. Today, our journey brings us to a quiet marine terminal on the West African coast. For decades, this jetty was a lifeline, a slender finger of concrete and steel stretching into the Atlantic, guiding cargo ships to shore and oil to market. Here, commerce and community met on the edge of land and sea. But all that changed in a single morning, when the ocean reclaimed its own. It was an ordinary Thursday. The sky was clear, the water calm, the day unfolding as it always did. Dock workers moved between stacks of cargo containers, the metallic groan of cranes punctuated by distant ship horns. Beneath their boots, the jetty seemed solid, reliable as sunrise. Then, the first sign. A deep, almost imperceptible groan rippled through the deck, vibrating up from the dark below. The sea pulled once, twice, a silent undertow, as if gathering strength, and then catastrophe. A deafening boom, followed by the splintering of concrete. In an instant, a massive section of the jetty dropped into the ocean. The deck cracked and crumbled like brittle chalk. Cranes toppled, their arms flailing into the surf. Entire containers, packed with goods, hopes, livelihoods, tumbled into the abyss. No explosion, no earthquake, just failure. The kind that leaves only questions in its wake. Witnesses would later struggle to describe the moment. One dock worker said, "The ground beneath us just disappeared." Another, shaking and pale, recalled, "The water didn't rise, the land fell. It was as if the sea had simply opened its mouth and swallowed the jetty whole." As the dust settled and the tide rolled back, the true scale of the disaster became clear. The jetty, a structure meant to last generations, had failed, suddenly and completely. The losses were staggering. Over $12 million in cargo and infrastructure gone in seconds. Oil leaked into the water, staining the waves and threatening marine life. Shipping schedules were shattered, trade delayed, livelihoods threatened, and in the aftermath, a single, inescapable question echoed through the community. How could this happen? The investigation began before the last crane was even fished from the sea. As forensic engineers, we arrived on site, tasked with solving a mystery written in twisted metal and shattered concrete. Our first steps were cautious, picking through ruins where the land met the water, eyes and instruments searching for the truth beneath the surface. Immediately, things didn't add up. The piles, those vertical columns meant to anchor the jetty deep into the seabed, were exposed, revealed by the missing deck like the bones of a long-dead giant. They were supposed to be made of reinforced marine-grade concrete. Instead, we found them brittle, riddled with cracks, and, most damningly, much shorter than the blueprints prescribed. It wasn't just the piles, the seabed itself told a story. Massive erosion trenches, scour holes, had formed right beneath the load-bearing points of the jetty. Here, the ocean had eaten away the earth with relentless patience, undermining the very foundation of the structure. This wasn't bad luck, it was bad engineering. Hidden beneath a facade of normalcy until the day the illusion broke, we turned to the paperwork, the original geotechnical reports that should have guided every decision. At first glance, the documents appeared routine: medium dense sand, solid bearing, minimal waterlogging. But when we tested fresh samples from the same zones, the reality was starkly different. The soil at the site was not sand, but soft, silty clay, unstable, prone to shifting, unable to bear the weight it was assigned. The bearing capacity was less than half of what the reports claimed. Even more troubling, the water table sat just 2 meters below the surface, far higher than anyone had admitted. The implications were clear, chilling in their simplicity. Somewhere between the soil tests and the start of construction, the truth had been buried. Just like the jetty would soon be. We dug deeper, both literally and figuratively. One day, an email arrived from a burner account. A former site engineer, anonymous and clearly fearful, agreed to share their story. Voice distorted, details obscured. They confirmed our worst suspicions. During construction, pile depths were cut from the designed 18 meters to just 11. Cathodic protection, a vital system that shields steel from corrosive seawater, was skipped entirely, a cost-saving measure. Warnings were sent up the chain, ignored or dismissed as obstacles to progress. And the design calculations? They had been massaged to fit the falsified soil report, an error built atop a lie, atop another error, until the foundation was nothing but a house of cards. The jetty's fate was sealed before the first barge arrived. Every shortcut, every omission, every falsified number became another crack in its armor. Let's pause for a moment to talk about scour. In engineering, scour is the silent thief, the gradual erosion of the seabed around piles and foundations, driven by the relentless movement of water. In calm weather or storm, the ocean never rests. It claws at anything in its path, sweeping away sand and silt, undermining structures that seem unshakable. Imagine building a sandcastle at the water's edge. The first waves nibble gently, then dig channels, then collapse the walls. For jetties and piers, the process is much the same, only slower, more insidious. The only defense is foresight, rock armor to shield the base, pile wraps to protect against abrasion, regular surveys to catch trouble before disaster strikes. On this jetty, none of those defenses existed. The design ignored the tides entirely, trusting in concrete poured on a foundation of lies. Scour went unmeasured and unchecked, until the day it claimed everything. We turned to simulation, reconstructing the collapse in digital detail. What should have been a 50-year design failed in just 7. As the seabed eroded, the load shifted onto ever weaker piles. The stress exceeded their diminished strength. Microcracks widened, steel corroded in salt-laden water. With each tide, the margins shrank. Until, finally, the structure passed the point of no return. Gravity did the rest. This was not a fluke. It was an engineered failure, a disaster written in advance by every corner cut and every warning ignored. After the collapse, chaos reigned. Rescue boats scrambled to recover what they could. Lawsuits flew between contractors, insurers, and regulators. Oil spilled into the sea, slicking the waves, threatening fisheries and livelihoods. The contractor responsible for construction vanished, their offices empty, phones silent. The sub-consultant who falsified the soil reports remains under investigation, a cautionary tale in human form. For the community, the losses were personal, a wound that may never fully heal. For us, the case was closed. The evidence was clear, the lessons stark. Every failed structure tells a story. This one was about lies in the foundation, about how ignoring the earth beneath can cost everything above. In engineering, assumptions can kill. That's why we check, we verify, and we listen to what the structure is whispering before it screams. But as we leave the ruins behind, the questions linger. How many other structures rest on falsified reports, on corners cut and warnings unheeded? How many ticking clocks are hidden in plain sight, counting down to their own silent catastrophe? The sea will wait. It always does. But we, engineers, builders, dreamers, must learn to listen to the language of structures, to read the cracks, the vibrations, the subtle signs, to see not just what stands, but what lies beneath. At Vital Axis, we believe structures speak through their history, their failures, their resilience. Every crack is a sentence, every collapse a paragraph, in the endless story of humanity's struggle to shape the world. We weave these narratives from science and metaphor, from fact and feeling, because every disaster is also a lesson, a chance to build better, to remember that the greatest strength is honesty, vigilance, and respect for the forces we would command. So let the story of the jetty that swallowed the sea stand as a warning and as a call to action. Structural integrity is not just a technical detail, it is the line between progress and tragedy, between legacy and loss. When we cut corners, we gamble with lives, with livelihoods, with the future. The next time you walk a bridge, stand on a pier, or marvel at a city skyline, remember, every structure is a conversation with the elements, with wind, with water, with time itself. And only by listening, by respecting the evidence, can we hope to build not just for today, but for the centuries to come. Subscribe to Vital Axis, where structures speak and we listen. Because in every failure, there is a story worth hearing, and in every story, the blueprint for something stronger, wiser, and more enduring.